This is Sarah with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to show you how to make this fun, super chunky cowl. Now this is made from Isaac Mizrah's yarn. It's a chunky number 6, and I believe this is called Lexington. It's beautiful. Isn't this a beautiful yarn? I was walking by Michael's in the store, walking through Michael's in the store, and I saw this and I just had to give it a try. It's super soft, super chunky, and super fun to work with. For today's demonstration though, I picked up this pink, and it's also a chunky number 6. It's another one of Isaac Mizrahi. I think that's how you say that. It's called Central Park, and it's also a chunky number 6, and we're going to do the same cowl as this one, only we're going to use this as our demonstration. It's really soft and fluffy. And what you're going to need is just the one skein. You're going to need a P-hook. Now I have this one, and I also have this one, and I was trying to see if they were the same, and it looks like this one's a little bit bigger. So just be careful. My metal one, I don't have it in here in my yarn studio. It's the same as this one. And so just be careful when you're buying a hook, you know. So it's totally up to you which one you want to use. I'm going to use this one. And then on this portion of the scarf is some chaining in order to go over the seam. And so what I'm going to do on this one is I chose a matching pink worsted weight. I love this yarn. I don't see the name on there. It looks like it's covered up, but it's like a bright lipstick pink. And I'm going to be using an eye hook to make those chains. And then I'm going to add this pretty pink button. So you're also going to need a needle and a pair of scissors. And that's really all you need. Just one skein or skein, however you call it, of the chunky number 6 yarn. Now it takes about 5 ounces. Let me see what's on this one. This says 3.5 ounces. So, and it has, let's see. Oh, everything's upside down. Let me look on this side. I was trying to see how many yards. Let's see. I don't see it on here. Oh, right there. This says 55 yards. So this other skein had about 70 yards on it. So, but this one only has 55. And that's part of the reason I wanted to go ahead and use this to make the chain part, just for some contrast. So let's see how it works. I think it's going to be beautiful. All right. Isn't this wonderful? It's like pink with a little bit of a white, soft fun fur going through it. All right, so I've made my slip knot and put it on my hook, and we're going to need to chain for 48 chains. And I just want you to understand, when you're working with the thick chunky yarn, it's a good idea to chain loosely and not tightly, because we're going to be coming back and stitching in those chains. And so you want to be able to stitch in those chains. So we're going to be chaining 48 chains. I have chained 48 chains. And now I'm going to join it in a circle. So I want to be very careful not to twist my chain. So I'm just sort of laying it out flat. There we go. And I'm going to join right in that first chain with a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, this doesn't make a huge cowl. So if you want your cowl bigger, chain more. And we're going to be working with chain 2, skip 2, and V-stitch. So you're probably going to want to add or subtract by 5s. And I really wouldn't want to subtract because this is going to make a nice size cowl. But if you want your cowl to be longer, like this one is a lot longer, you're going to need to add 5 chains increments, in 5 chain increments. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with row 2. So like I said, chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. And then we're going to skip 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we're going to make a V-stitch. And the way we make a V-stitch is we yarn over, go in the chain and make a double crochet, chain 1, and then we make another double crochet in that same stitch. There we go. And that's our first V-stitch. Now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and this is the pattern we're going to do all the way around. We're going to skip 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we'll make a V-stitch in the next chain. So we'll put a double crochet, there we go, chain 1, and a double crochet in the same stitch. And we're going to continue to repeat that. Chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. And we'll complete this all the way around. Isn't that fun? I just love how chunky and fat this is. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1 and double crochet in the same stitch or chain. We're working in a chain, so actually it's a chain. Chain 2. And you can see my chain stitches, or my V-stitches, forming right here. And we'll continue to do this all the way around. Okay, we have stitched 15 V-stitches all the way around. We did 1 double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in 1 stitch to make a V-stitch, chain 2, skip 2, and we did this all the way around for 15 V-stitches. And now what we're going to do to make the last V-stitch is we did our chain 2, and then we're going to double crochet in the same stitch where we did that chain 3 at the beginning. So we're making a double crochet. We're going to chain 1 and join to the top of the chain 3. And that gives us our last V-stitch of the round. And the next thing we're going to do is we're on row 3 is we're going to be stitching our V-stitches in our V-stitches. So basically we're doing the same thing. We're going to chain 2. And of course here we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to chain 2 more. 1, 2, because the first 3 will count as our first double crochet, and then chain 2. So then we'll be stitching double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next V stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, in this next V-stitch. And then we'll chain 2. And we would do this all the way around the cowl. So we chain 2, we'll do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, which is a V-stitch as we already said. Chain 2, 1, 2, and then we'll double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next V-stitch, chain 2. So, as you can see, we basically chained 5 because we chained 3, and then we chained 2, V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. And our V-stitch is the same as the V-stitch on row 1, 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet. Then we chain 2, and we would do this in every V-stitch all the way around our cowl. So now we've placed a V-stitch in every V-stitch all the way around our work. And we're to our last V-stitch. And the way we do that is we're going to put, we did our chain 2, and then where we began, so we're going to go right in that V-stitch and do a double crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to join to the 3rd chain of the beginning, because remember we chained 3 and then we chained 2. The chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and the chain 2 of course counts as the chain 2. So we did 1 double crochet, chain 1, and we're going to join to the 3rd chain of that beginning chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. And this is how we will do the next few rows. We'll do it exactly the same way as we did row 2. We chained 3, we're going to chain 2 more. Chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and the chain 2 counts as our first chain 2. And then we will continue to do a V-stitch and a V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch and a V-stitch, chain 2, all the way around. And on the pattern, it says you can do this for up to 6 rows. It's totally up to you how thick you want to make your cowl. And this one, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because of course the first row was the chaining row. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And you'll do this until you reach whatever width that you want. On this one here, it measures 6 inches wide. And so basically one row ends up being about an inch. So this is more like about 5 inches. Let's go ahead and measure. I'm going to just see, just to be sure. Here's our 0. Yeah, it measures about 6 inches, a little less, depending on if you want to stretch it out or not. So that, just to give you an idea, if you make the cowl like the pattern, the amount of rows, you're going to get a 6-inch wide cowl. So, and this one, let's measure this one too, so that you have that information. We've done the 3 rows, our beginning chain, and 2 rows of V-stitches, and you can see it's about 3 inches. So I would say if you do 3 more rows, you're going to get about a 6-inch cowl, 6-inch wide cowl. And so you're going to continue to do it exactly like we did, stitching double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in each V-stitch, and then chain 2, and repeat that all the way around and join the same way for 3 more rows. I have used the entire skein of this yarn, and I only got 5 rows. The initial chain row and then 4 rows of V stitches. But I'm really happy with it because it's a nice size cowl. If you want yours longer, you're going to have to get a second skein of this yarn. And this is by Premier Yarns. It's the Isaac Mizrahi in Central Park is the name of it. And I really loved working with it, but I really like the length of it, even though it's, I should say the width of it, even though it's only about 5 inches opposed to the other one that is 6 inches. And at the beginning of the video, I told you this one didn't have as much yardage on it. The other one had about almost 5 ounces, which was about 70 yards. This one only has 55 yards on it, which is about 3.5 ounces. So if you want to make this one thicker or longer, you're going to have to get a second skein of yarn. So what we're going to do next is I've already weaved in the ends so that it's all tidied up. And what I need to do now is make the chain band. And normally when I make the band, I make chains, which is what we're going to do. But usually it's to cover where we joined at the beginning, cover that little bit of a seam. But this one, I had it tidied up so nicely that, I mean, you can't even find where that seam is. And so we'll just stick it about anywhere. And so what we're going to do is I'm using this to make my chain, and I'm going to be using 2 strands of the yarn. And so what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and pop that off of there so it unwinds better. I'm going to use 2 strands, and so I'm going to use one from the beginning and one from the end of the skein of yarn. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to be using an eye hook to make the chain, and we're going to chain, there's my slip knot, using both strands of yarn, and we're going to chain 48 chains. And this makes a nice long band. We can wrap it around a couple of times. And if you want it to be longer, you certainly can chain as long as you want to. I want it to be able to wrap around 3 times in order to put my button on. And so I'm going to chain 48. If you want to chain more, like I said, go right ahead. And also, if you bought the second skein of the yarn, you'll have plenty of yarn to make the chain out of the same yarn. So I've made my chain, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of gather up the area I want to put it and wrap it around. There we go. So I've got 3 good wraps. I'm going to go ahead and do a 4th because I got plenty of space there. And then I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to just basically tie those 2 ends together. And then I'm going to give it another good tie. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to go underneath. And I'm going to pull this one this way. And then I'm going to go underneath this way and grab the other tail and pull it that way. And then I just give it another good tie. And that just scrunches it down, and also it's not going to go anywhere. Nice good tie. And then clip that. And that's the back side. And then what I usually do is just push those under. Okay, so here's the front of our skein, of our cowl. We want to kind of twist those a little bit and get those where they're laying nice and pretty. So there's our 4 chains. And I went ahead and did 4 just because it scrunched up nice and it had lots of room. And then I want to put this nice big button on there. So I took some of the yarn and I went ahead and threaded my needle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go completely through hold that, and then I'm going to go and make the cross stitch on there. Go back through there again and cross it over. I'm just going to give this a couple of stitches like that just to hold it, and again I'm going to tie that in a nice knot. And so there's the front of my cowl. There we go. Get it to lay out pretty. There we go. There, that looks pretty. And I really like this yarn because it has the variegation in it, or variegated, however you call that. Lights and darks. It's nice and fuzzy, but it's not heavy. It's very soft and lightweight to wear. And this is a type of cowl that you can wear during the day or during the evening, out to dinner or to a party. It's the perfect everyday little cowl when you need a little extra spunk. It'd even be great with jeans and a t-shirt, I think. So that's our cowl. Super chunky V-stitch cowl. There are tons of yarns that you can use for this. Any chunky number 6 yarn will work.